This world you see around you, with its flashing lights and trembling shadows, its pleasures and fears, its news and noise, and constant hunger, this world is not what you think it is. It is not the ground beneath your feet, nor the source of your joy, nor the truth of your suffering. It is a dream, divinely projected, sustained by the light of God, yet mistaken by the soul as its home. I tell you with the authority of inner vision, what you call reality is but a motion picture, flickering across the screen of cosmic mind, and you, dear soul, are not the actor caught in the scene. You are the light behind the film, the still witness behind the noise, the eternal observer mistakenly mesmerized by the dance of forms. Everything you see will disappear: your name, your house, your fears, your body, your memories, and yet you trust it more than the one who never leaves. That is the sorrow of Maya, that it makes the temporary seem permanent, the outer seem important, and the eternal seem invisible. But you were never born to be fooled, you were born to wake. You suffer because you try to build on sand. You cry because you love shadows. You fall because you have forgotten the wings of your soul. The great drama of life was never meant to be mistaken, as life itself it is God's dream. A majestic school for your awakening, not a prison for your identity. When you cry over loss, it is because you thought something was yours that never truly was. When you cling to approval, it is because you thought your worth was determined by opinion, not by spirit. When you fear death, it is because you forgot that you never truly began. My beloved, what is born must die, what appears must vanish, but the soul is not a thing in time. The soul is the stillness behind time, the flame behind your eyes, the current behind your thoughts. And it waits for you, every day, behind the noise of this world, whispering, "This is not real. I am." Picture this life as a movie playing on a great screen. The characters move, the scenes change, joy and sorrow flash like lightning across the sky of perception. And you, entranced by the play, forget that behind the colors and motion, there is a beam of divine light making the illusion possible. Cut the beam, and the movie ends, but the screen remains. The screen is God, changeless and eternal. The beam is your attention, your consciousness. Where you focus, there you suffer or awaken. This world has no independent existence. It is real only because God allows it to be projected. But the goal is not to get lost in the drama. The goal is to see the projector, the light, the screen, and, finally, to realize that you are not in the movie. You are the witness who came to remember. Let us pause now. Breathe with me. Inhale slowly, hold, exhale deeply. Feel the unreality of what you cling to. Feel the silence beneath your breath. In that silence is the first thread of truth. It is the quiet beneath every sound, the stillness beneath every motion, the peace beneath every pain. That stillness is more real than anything you will ever see or touch in this world. Do you feel it? Good. Now let us walk further into the secret of your divine origin, which no shadow can touch. Before the stars were spun from the breath of the infinite, before the suns burned in space, before time ever wrapped its cold fingers around thought, before this world shimmered into form like a mirage upon the sands of spirit, you already were pure, uncreated, untouched, unborn. You, O soul, are not the offspring of biology or the echo of chemical chance. You are the immortal spark of the one flame, the silent witness who has worn many names, many faces, many costumes in the theater of incarnation, but has never truly been altered by any of them. The body is not your home, the mind is not your master, the emotions are not your compass. These are but layers of dream wool wrapped around your being as you journey through the shadows of forgetfulness. What you call birth is but your entrance onto this stage. What you call death is merely the curtain's fall. And in between you improvise a role written by karma, but chosen by your deeper self. The soul, the soul is like a traveler who, on a divine pilgrimage, stops at many inns, dons many robes, speaks many tongues, but never forgets that the path is not the destination and the journey is not the self. Through the science of Kriya Yoga, I have seen how the soul descends, like a ray from the sun, into the womb of matter, cloaking itself in astral energy, then in gross flesh, each layer a denser vibration than the one before. each step a further descent into the illusion of separation. But the soul is never truly trapped, it only appears to be veiled, just as the sun may seem lost on a cloudy day, though it still burns beyond the gray. Your body is but a costume. Your personality is but a script. But you, behind it all, are the actor who has never forgotten the original stage, the infinite sky of spirit. You may ask, why then do I feel so human, so heavy, so bound to this earth? And I say, because you have mistaken the reflection for the source, the echo for the voice, the garment for the wearer. The ocean sends up waves, and the waves may imagine they are alone, distinct, separate, struggling to survive in a stormy sea. But if even one wave remembers that it is the ocean, if even one soul pauses and says, I am not this motion, I am the deep, then the whole ocean rejoices, for God remembers himself through that soul. My beloved, you were never created in the way the world defines creation. You were emanated, like light from the sun, like fragrance from a rose, like melody from a divine flute. You did not begin, you only entered the play of seeming beginnings. You are not the result of circumstances. You are the cause that gave rise to them. Breathe again. Inhale deeply and whisper within, I was never born. Exhale and affirm, I only dreamed I was asleep. Feel the echo of those words stir within the chambers of your being. You have not come here to become something new. You have come here to remember something ancient. Your divine origin is not a poetic notion, it is the very foundation of your being. God did not create you out of dust. He dreamt you into existence as his own reflection, and now he longs for you to turn inward and see that you were never anything less. You are the soul, not the birth certificate, the light, not the name, the witness, not the changing roles you play across lifetimes. Now, let us move forward not into greater knowledge, but into deeper remembrance. For if you know that you are not this body, not this timeline, not this fleeting experience, then you are ready to confront the veil that hides the real behind the unreal, the veil called Maya. Let us now, with courage and holy stillness, unmask the cosmic hypnotist and reveal the dream for what it is. Maya, the subtle and terrible weaver of unreality, the grand illusionist whose threads are spun not from cloth but from vibration, not from substance but from seeming. It is she who cloaks the face of God with a veil of matter and time and name and desire, and causes the immortal soul to believe it is a temporary body, causes the oceanic spirit to mistake itself for a drop, causes the deathless to fear death, and the eternal to fear change. She is not evil in essence, but delusion in function. Born of the infinite's play, the lila, the divine sport by which the one becomes many, the formless dons form, the seer becomes the seen, and then forgets it is a sacred amnesia permitted by God to make the game of separation possible. Yet that game turns to suffering when the soul forgets it was always the player and not the pawn. Maya is not a myth. My child, it is the most intimate experience you have every day. It is the longing for possessions that will rot, the chasing of praise that will fade, the fear of loss that blinds the eyes to what was never truly yours, the restlessness that says, I must have this, and the grief that whispers, I have lost everything. Maya speaks through the language of senses. It paints reality with a brush of duality, and it seduces the ego with promises of pleasure that never satisfy and threats of pain that never destroy. It is the reason you forget your immortality when someone criticizes you, the reason you panic over what will pass, the reason you laugh at the eternal and cry over the temporary. It is the current that pulls the mind outward, outward, always outward toward the movie screen of appearances and away from the hidden projector of spirit. Do not hate Maya, but do not trust her. She is the velvet curtain between your eyes and God. She is the force that makes the dream so vivid that you cry over shadows and rejoice over illusions. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this Maya of mine is difficult to overcome, and yet he immediately adds, but to those who take refuge in me, it is easily transcended. Maya cannot be defeated by intellect, for she wears the robes of logic. She cannot be banished by pleasure, for she seduces through it. She cannot be outrun by ambition, for she rides on its back. She can only be pierced by the sword of divine discrimination, sharpened by stillness, and wielded by the soul that knows, I am not this, I am that. You may ask, But why would God permit such delusion? And I tell you, it is because love cannot be compelled, only chosen. If there were no illusion, there would be no freedom. If there were no forgetting, there could be no remembrance. If there were no Maya, there would be no awakening. For the dream gives meaning to the realization that it was never real. God, in love, created Maya not to punish, but to Plato give you the sacred choice. Will you worship the light or the reflection? Will you live as a body with a soul, or as a soul wearing a body? Will you drift in the currents of time, or rise in the stillness of eternity? Breathe now. Breathe slowly, and as you exhale, whisper silently, I do not trust appearances. I seek the real. Again, inhale. Feel the breath as light. Exhale. Feel it as release. For each breath not claimed by Maya is a step closer to the kingdom within. And now, having unmasked the deluding power that binds so many souls to sorrow, we must expose its chief servant, the false self, the ego, the greatest mask of all. Come, let us unveil the shadow that hides the face of the soul. And now, dear one, we arrive at the most subtle impostor, the most persistent illusion, the most intimate deceiver, the ego, that whispering voice which says, "This is me," when it is only a mask, a shadow, a wave forgetting the ocean from which it rose, a reflection believing itself to be the face, a temporary ripple in the stream of eternity, mistaking itself for the source. It is not your friend, nor your enemy, it is your amnesia. It is the fog that settles over the mirror of the soul and causes the infinite to see itself as finite, the changeless to believe it is constantly becoming, the ever free to feel bound by time, by body, by roles, by names, by success, by failure, by all the passing shapes of the dream. The ego is not a thing, it is a habit, a mental reflex born from identification with form. It clings to roles like armor and says, I am a mother, a student, a seeker, a sinner, a success, a failure, forgetting that all these labels are like costumes hung on a cosmic rack, worn for a time, then removed when the curtain falls. It thrives on comparison. It must be better than, smarter than, more spiritual than, more wounded than, more deserving than, and yet beneath its grasping lies terror, the quiet tremor of knowing it is not real, that it cannot exist without constant reinforcement, constant attention, constant storytelling, for the ego does not live in truth, it survives in narrative. It cannot stand silence, for silence exposes its fiction. It cannot endure stillness, for stillness reveals the watcher behind the mask. And so it feeds on thought, on noise, on motion, always whispering, be more, do more, prove more, fear more, never allowing you to pause long enough to ask, but who is this I that seeks so feverishly? The ego is not to be hated, for it is part of the divine gamete, is the veil that makes awakening meaningful, but it must not be believed. For every time you obey its voice, you add another layer between you and the soul. You become a puppet of opinions, a prisoner of ambition, a seeker lost in seeking itself. The ego walks into every spiritual path and says, look how holy I am. It uses even pain to validate its story. See how much I've suffered, surely that makes me real. But suffering cannot make you real. Only awakening can. And to awaken, you must see the ego not as your identity, but as your temporary lens. Not as yourself, but as your cloak. Take a breath now. A deep, slow breath. As you inhale, say inwardly, I am not this mask. As you exhale, affirm, I am the light behind it. Again gently, reverently. I am not this story, I am the witness. Can you feel the shift? That subtle flicker, that spacious awareness beyond name, beyond role, beyond thought, that is you, beloved. That is the soul. And the soul does not strive, does not cling, does not panic, does not compete, it watches, it loves, it knows, it simply is. Now, come further with me. We have exposed the illusion, the weaver, and the mask. Let us now remember the self, the true self, the spirit, untouched by shadow, unbound by time, unseen by eyes, but known in the depths of silence, felt in the still chamber of being that no noise can reach. The false must fall, that the real may rise. Let us rise now. Let us enter the sanctuary of what never began and can never end. Let us meet the soul. O seeker of truth, if the waves of illusion have crashed against your heart and the winds of ego have howled through the hollow chambers of your longing, then hear now this eternal whisper from the depths of your being. You are not what changes. You are not what suffers. You are not what craves, fears, competes, or decays. You are the witness, the silent presence, the unmoved seer who has watched empires rise and fall, who has looked out through 1,000 eyes across lifetimes, who has heard the same ocean of longing roll through different names, different ages, different bodies, and yet has remained calm, luminous, untouched. You are not your childhood. You are not your future. You are not your triumphs or your traumas. You are not the contents of your thoughts. You are that within which all of it appears and disappears. You are the still sky through which the clouds pass. You are the silence beneath every sound. You are the Suland. The soul was never born and will never die. The body may change, wrinkle, grow tired, or collapse. The mind may swirl with memories, hopes, and fears. Emotions may storm like wind across the surface of a lake. But you, dear one, are the depth of that lake, unshaken by weather, undisturbed by the surface, never drowned by the world's noise. From that place of stillness, you have always watched as your hands changed shape, watched as those you loved came and went, watched as the world offered promises it could not keep, watched as your own thoughts told you you were small, or lost, or not enough, and yet something in you knew. But I am still here. I was here before the pain. I was here after the laughter. I was here when the name was first given. I will be here when the name is forgotten. This is the self, not the personality, but the perceiver. Not the voice in your head, but the space in which the voice speaks. Not the candle, but the flame. Not the memory, but the light that remembers. The Bhagavad Gita says, the soul is never born, nor does it die. It does not come into being, nor cease to exist. Unborn, eternal, changeless, it is not slain when the body is slain. What a thunderous truth! You do not become eternal, you remember that you already are. You do not need to achieve anything to be free, you must only stop pretending to be what you are not. You are not the scenery of this world. You are the light in which the scenery is seen. Inhale now, slowly, reverently. As you do, say silently, I am not this change. Exhale gently, I am the changeless. Again breathe with remembrance, not routine. I am not the seen, I am the seer. Let these words enter the bloodstream of your soul. For when you speak from this place, every cell hears it. The illusion begins to loosen. The false identifications begin to crumble. The dust of lifetimes begins to settle, revealing the quiet, unblinking flame at the center of your being. And now that you have tasted, even slightly, the flavor of your eternal self, let us go deeper still. Let us explore how the things you cling to, matter, emotion, thought, are nothing more than painted veils drifting across the mirror of the infinite. Let us walk through the realms of illusion together, not with fear, but with the lamp of truth burning steadily in our hearts. For only by seeing the false can we fully choose the real. Come, soul. The dream is thinning. The dawn of truth draws near. Look closely at the world around you, at the table beneath your hands, at the buildings in your city, at the trees rising toward the sky, at the body you call your own, with its bone and blood and breath and name, and realize, with the eyes of the soul, that none of it is as it seems, that all form is flickering, all matter is movement slowed into shape, all solidity is a song of atoms spinning in emptiness, all structure is a temporary dance of divine vibration, frozen into an appearance of permanence that fools the senses, but cannot deceive the awakened gaze. For matter is not real, it is energy wearing a mask. And that energy is thought, and that thought is divine. A condensation of spirit into patterns of seeming so convincing that the soul, descending into a body, forgets it is light and believes it is flesh, forgets it is the painter and begins to suffer as the painting. This illusion is the first veil of Maya, the illusion of matter, of time, of space. It says, you are here, and so you forget you are everywhere. It says, this object is solid, and so you forget it is 99% space. It says, this body is who you are, and so you forget you were never born. But just as the cinema screen remains untouched by the story projected upon it, whether a war or a wedding, a birth or a death, so your consciousness remains untouched by the drama of this world, even while you seem to live within it. Even modern science whispers this truth, that time bends, that space is relative, that particles do not even exist until observed, that light behaves like both wave and particle, depending on how you look. Do you see? Even your science has begun to tremble at the edge of the sacred, that what we call reality is not fixed, not stable, not true in the way your soul knows truth to be. The body ages, the world spins, stars explode, galaxies collide, but spirit remains. And you, dear one, are that spirit. You do not move, though the body walks. You do not die, though the flesh falls. You do not change, though the universe rearranges itself 1,000 times before your breath completes its cycle. Matter is a mask. Time is a trance. Form is the trick of the divine hypnotist. But you are the witness of the trick. And once you see that the rabbit in the magician's hat is only a symbol, you no longer cry when it vanishes. Take a long, still breath. Inhale with the spine erect. Feel the body as light. Exhale with quiet reverence. Whisper inside, I am not this form. I am the light behind it. Again, feel it not with intellect, but with devotion. Let the idea melt into knowing. For the more you release your grasp on matter, the more you rise into the radiance of spirit. Come now, let us lift another veil. For not only is matter an illusion, but your emotions and thoughts, the very things you often mistake for your identity, are even more fleeting, even more deceptive, and even more in need of unmasking. Let us continue our journey through the dream, that we may awaken into what was never asleep. Now let us move deeper still, beyond the veils of matter and form, into the inner theater where most souls become trapped not by the world outside, but by the ceaseless waves within the rise and fall of emotion. The tangle and chatter of thought, the shifting tides of sensation and inner narrative which, though entirely intangible, are taken as truth, as reality, as the very definition of selfhood. And so the soul becomes ensnared, not by chains of steel, but by clouds, not by prisons with walls, but by patterns of feeling, belief, and memory that arise and pass like wind, yet are mistaken for identity, for destiny, for me, when in truth they are nothing more than vibrations, impressions, echoes dancing across the surface of your true self like ripples on a still lake, which, when stilled, reveals the stars. Emotions, yes, how mighty they feel, how absolute in their grip, how real when they surge through the heart, when sorrow makes the chest heavy or joy sends it soaring, when fear crawls up the spine or love blossoms behind the eye sand, yet every one of them is a visitor, not a tenant, a traveler, not the land, a guest that knocks and leaves, sometimes invited, often uninvited, but always impermanent. For no emotion has ever lasted, and none can define the soul that witnesses them. You are not your anger. You are not your grief. You are not even your happiness. These are all waves, some strong, some soft, some painful, some beautiful, but all of them made of water. And water does not last unless frozen by attention, unless grasped by the mind and called mine. But even when frozen, even when named, even when clung to, emotion melts, because it was never yours, never you. It was an energy, an expression, a movement through the field of your being, asking to be seen, felt, honored, then released. And thoughts, those constant visitors, those slippery echoes of past and future, those scripts written by memory and hope and fear and conditioning, how persistent they are, how endlessly convincing, how quick to claim power as if each one were law, as if the sentence in your head, I am not enough, or I must prove myself, or they don't love me, were handed down by God instead of manufactured in the machinery of Maya. How quickly we obey them, how fully we believe them, forgetting that a thought is just a sound without a voice, a movement without mass, a flicker without fire unless we feed it with belief. You are not your thoughts. No matter how loud, no matter how frequent, no matter how intimate they feel, you are not the thinker, you are the watcher of thought. You are the sky that watches the weather, not the clouds that come and go. You are the silence between the words, not the sentence that passes through. Say it now, slowly. Thoughts are not the thinker. Waves are not the sea. Again whisper it like a secret you are remembering, not learning. Emotions pass. The soul remains. Inhale slowly through the nose. Exhale gently through the heart. Feel the stillness behind the movement. Feel the one who watches without judgment. That is you, not the sadness, not the story, not the sensation, but the sacred perceiver behind it all. If you can see a thing, you are not that thing. You cannot be what you observe. And since you can observe your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your breath, your body, then you must be something else. You must be the spirit that stands behind all change, behind all flickering, behind all noise, behind even the desire to awaken. And when you see that clearly, even for a moment, a door opens a door into freedom, into peace, into a love that is not emotional but eternal, not expressive but all-pervasive. And so, beloved, now that you have seen the illusion of matter and the mirage of emotion, the theater of thought and the dance of form, let us not merely understand these truths intellectually. Let us now practice the path of rising beyond them, not by escaping the world, but by no longer mistaking it for home. Let us walk the path from illusion to experience, from belief to embodiment, from dreaming to divine remembrance. The soul is ready. The time is now. Now that your eyes have opened a little more to the impermanence of this fleeting world, and your heart has begun to discern the difference between the echo and the eternal, let us turn from philosophy to practice. For truth that is not lived remains buried, and realization without repetition is like a seed left unwatered, full of potential, but not yet blossomed in. So I speak to you now, not merely to instruct the mind, but to awaken the will, to guide the body, to retune the breath and spine and gaze, so that you may walk each day, not as one hypnotized by Maya, but as one returning to God, with every inhalation drawing you out of the dream, and every exhalation dissolving the false self like morning mist before the sunrise of the soul. Begin your day not by reaching for the phone, not by opening the news, not by placing your awareness into the world of shadows, but by turning within before the first word is spoken, before the first thought is welcomed, before the first emotion tries to claim your attention. Sit upright, in stillness, with the spine as your sacred altar, the breath as your silent chant, and the gaze gently lifted toward the Christ center, that sacred point between the eyebrows where spirit is remembered and illusion loses its grip. Sit there for just a few minutes in the morning, and you will find that the whole day begins to echo with eternity. Close the eyes, but open the inner vision. Silence the tongue, but speak devotion within. Still the body, and feel the subtle movement of God within your breath. Each inhale is the rope pulling you inward. Each exhale is the loosening of worldly bondage. Sit not to achieve, but to return. Sit not to gain, but to remember. As you breathe, begin to gently observe your breath, not to control it harshly, but to accompany it as a witness, a friend, a child of the infinite, watching the river of divine motion flow through the nostrils, the lungs, the blood, the cells, reminding every part of you, this breath is not mine. This breath is God's whisper moving through me. Let the mind try to distract you. Let the emotions knock. Let the to-do list rise like a wave. Simply return to the breath. Return to the gaze. Return to the stillness. Return, return, return. And as the mind quiets, speak within, affirm with the full power of your soul, not from the lips but from the light behind your spine. I am the soul. I am the witness. I am the light. Let this be your mantra, your medicine, your magnet. Repeat it with reverence, not repetition. Let it ring with meaning. Let it pierce through the fog of thought and the dust of memory. Say it not to become the soul, but to stop pretending that you are anything else. Let it echo in your heart like a temple bell. Let it rise up the spine like golden nectar. Let it fill the space behind your forehead until nothing else remains. Practice this not once, not when convenient, not as a technique, but as a sacred ritual of homecoming, as the way the soul says to the universe each morning, I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I choose to awaken. And if you fall back into the dream later in the day, do not fear. Simply return. Even one moment of true remembrance dissolves hours of illusion. Even one breath taken in God awareness is more healing than 1,000 taken in forgetfulness. For the soul is not far away. The soul is always here, waiting in silence, behind the noise, beneath the emotion, within the breath. So begin again. Each day, each morning, each moment, choose to sit in stillness, choose to watch the breath, choose to lift the gaze, choose to speak the truth within. And slowly, like the rising of the sun, the dream will begin to break, the veil will begin to lift, and what was once taken as real will be revealed as fleeting, and what was once forgotten as distant, spirit will be remembered as your own. Self, nearer than breath, older than time, and more solid than the world you once believed was home. Let us now continue not only to meditate in silence, but to carry that clarity into life itself, into action, into relationship, into each moment of decision. Let us now learn to walk through the dream without becoming the dreamer. Let us watch the movie of life, not from the screen, but from the soul's seat in the audience, calm, clear, and eternally free. There is a secret, beloved, hidden in plain sight, a truth known by the sages and whispered by the saints, a practice not of escaping the world, but of seeing it rightly, not of rejecting life, but of piercing through it with eyes that no longer believe it to be the source of reality. For once you begin to watch the world as a movie and yourself, not as the character, but as the witnessing soul seated in the audience, untouched by the drama, the emotion, the rise and fall of the plot, then liberation begins not after death, but here, now, in the midst of every breath, every sorrow, every conversation, every duty that used to bind you, but now becomes the stage upon which God dances, and you remain free, awake, and aligned with the one behind it all. This is the way of the master's not withdrawal from life, but unshakable awareness in life, a daily discipline of remembrance, a training of perception, a reprogramming of attention, so that even as you go about the responsibilities of the body, you remain anchored in the breathless realm of spirit. Even as you move among family and work and noise, your soul remains calm, centered, watching from the eye of eternity while the world turns like a wheel before you. This is how to walk in Maya without becoming its prisoner, to speak without losing your silence, to act without falling into attachment, to love without clinging, to serve without forgetting that you are the eternal self, merely wearing this name, this face, this body, for a little while like a robe soon to be returned to the earth from which it came. The movie will play, yes it must, for this is the soul's school. The divine drama scripted by karma and guided by higher laws so subtle, so vast, that your mind cannot grasp them, but you need not be the character who suffers, who hopes and fears and wins and loses. You may be the seer instead, the one who knows, this scene too shall pass. And because you no longer grasp, you no longer grieve, because you no longer cling, you no longer ache, because you see through it, you begin to shine from within it, untouched by the fire, unstained by the tears, for your awareness is no longer locked inside the illusion but freed into the vastness of spirit from which the illusion arises like mist over a sunlit sea. Practice this now, beloved, as you move through your day, before each action pause, not for long, only for a breath. And in that breath ask yourself, is this eternal? And if it is, note if the thought, the worry, the reaction, the opinion, the urgency you feel is not eternal, let it pass. Watch it like a cloud drifting by. Smile at its illusion. Act if needed, but act from peace. Speak if needed, but speak from soul. Choose, decide, move, but do so from the seat of the witness, not from the mask of the ego. And if you forget, begin again. If you fall into identification, forgive the self gently and return. There is no punishment in forgetting, only delay. But each return is powerful. Each remembrance cracks the illusion a little more. Each act of calm awareness shortens the dream and widens the soul. And when the day is done, before sleep, take a few moments to bless the day. Sit quietly, lift the gaze, watch the breath, and offer everything, every thought, every word, every moment, back to God. Say within, all that I thought was mine, I offer back to thee. All that passed through me, I now release. Let me dream no more. Let me wake in thee. And sleep not as one who ends a day, but as one who returns to the light from which the day was born. This is the way of the yogi in the world, not above it, not afraid of it, not distracted by it, but awakened within it, anchored in the eternal while the fleeting dances before the eyes, never again fooled by the motion of Maya, but forever returned to the stillness of the self, which watches all, embraces all, and remains untouched, unchanging, and free. Come, dear one, there is more yet to be said. Let us now explore how to live in this world without being of it, to act in love without clinging in fear, to remain lotus-like upon the waters of illusion, blooming in light yet rooted in silence. Now we arrive at a sacred threshold, where the aspirant begins to taste what the saints have known all along, that freedom is not an escape from action, nor a denial of responsibility, nor a severing of worldly ties, but rather the art of walking through the world with the heart turned upward and the gaze turned inward, where you no longer confuse the doing with the being, nor the result with your value, nor the praise or blame of others with your identity. For here is the truth. To live in two worlds is not a contradiction, but a divine balance, to serve in the outer world while dwelling always in the inner sanctuary, to perform each duty with the hands of devotion, while the soul remains seated on the throne of divine awareness, unmoved, unshaken, unbound. This is what the great scriptures meant when they taught, "Be in the world, but not of it." For the soul must descend into this dream to learn, to burn away old tendencies, to polish the mirror of consciousness through joy and sorrow and loss and gain, but it need not forget its origin, need not take the costume as the self, need not mistake the stage for the sky above it. And so, the yogi moves through this life like a lotus rising from muddy water, present, but never polluted, rooted, but never trapped, engaged, but never identified, each petal a blessing, each breath a hymn, each action a silent offering at the feet of the eternal beloved. And so, beloved, when you act from the soul, when you serve as though serving the Spirit in all, when you speak as though your voice were the flute of God, letting only that which is pure and healing pass through, when you feel pain, acknowledge it, but do not possess it, when you feel joy, experience it, but do not demand it. Let all things rise and fall upon the canvas of your awareness, like waves upon the shore, never clinging, never resisting, always returning, always remembering. I act, but I do not grasp. I love, but I do not cling. I live, but I remember I am not from here. And you must affirm this often, for the world will tempt you to forget. It will dress up illusions as truth, offer you identities to wear, stories to believe, attachments to cherish, fears to obey, but you must be vigilant, not with tension, but with reverence, not with suspicion, but with inner poise, like a flame in windless air, steady and bright, unmoved by what moves around it. You must learn to act as a divine instrument, not as the player. You must remember that each person you meet is a reflection of God, veiled in temporary form. You must remember that each task is a chance to practice presence, and each moment of pleasure or pain is a test. Will you remember who you are, or will you fall back into sleep? To live in two worlds is to live as Christ lived, as Krishna taught, as every illumined soul revealed, not in withdrawal, but in transcendence, not in hiding, but in freedom that shines through presence. This body, this mind, this life, they are not obstacles to God, they are vehicles of God. But only when you cease claiming them, only when you cease worshiping them, only when you use them, lightly, lovingly, but never as your home. The soul cannot belong to anything that passes. The soul belongs only to God. And so let your life become a river that flows without fear. Let your heart become a sun that warms but does not cling. Let your mind become a sky that holds all weather without believing it. Let your hands become instruments of service, and your breath become a rhythm of remembrance. And in doing so, you shall live in two worlds, the world of action and the world of spirit, but you will know which is real and which is shadow. You will walk through the dream, yes, but you will never again be fooled by it. You will be awake, and in that wakefulness, even the smallest act becomes divine. Even the silent gaze becomes a prayer. Let us now step into the final chamber of realization, not only to know what is unreal, but to anchor in the eternal, to root ourselves so deeply in the self that no storm, no sorrow, no change can ever again make us forget that we are children of the infinite, born not for illusion, but for awakening. And now, beloved soul, after walking with me through illusion, through disidentification, through the dusty corridors of ego, and the dissolving veils of Maya, I invite you to come home not in thought, not in theory, not in poetic longing, but in direct remembrance, in embodied stillness, in the sacred act of anchoring yourself not in the world that shifts, but in the reality that was never born, never moves, never ends, never forgets, never fears, never longs, for it is already whole, already free, already perfect. This is the true self, the divine Atman within you, the silent witness behind all dreaming, and to remember, it is not to believe something new, but to cease believing in the false, to let go of all that changes, and to rest, finally and eternally, in the changeless. You are not the soul because a book says so, not because a teacher declares it, not because a scripture affirms it. You are the soul because nothing else remains when all illusion falls away, when all the names are dropped, when all desires grow silent, when the mind no longer narrates and the senses no longer demand. There remains only the quiet, the presence, the knowing that you are, and that your beingness has no beginning and no border, that your essence was never formed by flesh and will not dissolve with it. For you are the beam of light sent from the infinite to shine for a little while within the dream of form, not to become it, but to awaken through it, to pierce the veil and say, "Ah, even here, even in this fleeting world, God is," and then to return, with still eyes and wide breath, into the chamber of eternal remembrance. So declare this now not with your lips alone, but with your posture, with your stillness, with your breath and gaze and intention and devotion. I am the soul, not the scenery. I am the light, not the flickering. I am the breathless stillness behind all sound. Speak it again. Let it rise up the spine. Let it echo through your chest. Let it vibrate through your cells like a bell tolling across a mountain. For when you speak truth, not as theory, but as invocation, the body listens, the subconscious aligns, the aura harmonizes, and your very atoms begin to sing with divine remembrance. You are not what the world made you. You are what God remembers of you. Now sit. Sit like a saint remembering the infinite. Sit like a soul no longer lost in the play. Sit as though the universe were watching, for it is. Let the breath slow. Let the thoughts recede like waves returning to sea. Let the gaze lift not with strain, but with reverent stow the point between the eyebrows, that secret passageway where the soul communes with the eternal. And as you do this, do not seek, do not strive, simply say within, with holy breath, inhale, I remember. Exhale, I return. Inhale again, feel God's presence moving through you. Exhale again, feel all illusion falling away. Now, in the sacred stillness of your own soul, I invite you to make a vow not to me, not to this message, but to the light within you that has waited patiently behind every thought, every mistake, every moment of pain, every joy, every doubt. Right below, not to be seen, but to seal your intention in this world and the next. I live in the world, but I walk with the eternal. Let this vow not be a promise of perfection, but a declaration of direction. Let it guide your mornings and seal your evenings. Let it awaken you when the dream thickens and remind you when the ego begins to rise again. And now, dear one, let us pass into the great silence together, not the silence of absence, but the silence of presence, the silence in which the soul remembers, the silence in which God is no longer distant, the silence in which nothing needs to be said, because everything has already been given, everything has already been received. Gaze into the spiritual eye not to see visions, but to let go of all seeing. Breathe not to survive, but to merge. Sit not to achieve, but to be. For the world will keep moving, but you have found the still point. The days will rise and fall, but you have remembered the timeless. And while others chase shadows, you have touched the sun. Let this be the life you live now, not as a character in the dream, but as the light behind it, awake, eternal, and free. Now let us not speak for a moment, not because there is nothing more to say, but because the deepest truths are not uttered in syllables, nor taught through thoughts, nor passed through words. They are entered like a temple without walls. They are received like sunlight on skin. They are known like breath in the chest before it is named. They are absorbed like music that leaves no echo, because it merges with the Suland. This, beloved, this is the temple into which we now pass. Not by step, not by thought, but by stillness, by breath, by surrender, by that sacred silence in which all that is unreal dissolves, and all that is real is revealed to have been here all along, waiting behind your eyes, pulsing in your heart, humming in your spine, rising and falling like the breath that first called you into form and will one day call you back beyond it. Let the eyes now close, not to retreat from the world, but to return to the light that outshines it. Let the breath now soften, not as withdrawal, but as a prayer, a return, a merging with the eternal rhythm of spirit which has pulsed through every life, every incarnation, every longing, every step you have taken toward the remembering of your divine source. Let the mind no longer seek to understand, for there is nothing left to grasp, only something to be. This presence, this essence, this light, this self. And so let the words fall away now. Let the teachings recede. Let even the path vanish beneath your feet. For you have arrived not in geography or time, but in awareness, in awakening, in God. And if your heart trembles in this moment, let it tremble not with fear, but with reverence, not with uncertainty, but with the awe that comes when the soul touches the hem of the infinite and feels, even if only for a breath, that there is nothing left to seek, because all that is real is here, and it has always been here, and you have never been apart from it, not truly, not eternal, only dreaming, only wandering through shadows, only forgetting what you now begin to remember with every beat, with every breath, with every holy silence that returns. So listen now, not to me, not to the world, but to the whisper of God within you, that voice that says without sound, "You are mine, you are light, you are eternal." Let it speak where thoughts cannot enter. Let it awaken where language cannot follow. Let it carry you where death cannot reach, where fear cannot tread, where sorrow dissolves like mist under the sun of remembrance. And from that place unchanging, unmoving, unborn, from that flame that flickers behind the eyes and lights the entire dream, know that you are not the traveler, but the sky that holds the road, not the sound, but the silence beneath it, not the actor, but the screen upon which the play appears and disappears. You are the light behind the dream. You are the stillness behind the movement. You are the witness behind the world. And when the illusions have played their part, when the stories have ended, when the breath has quieted, and the body has returned to dust, this shall remain: you, the real, the immortal, the unseen light, the beloved within the beloved, the eternal that speaks in silence and rises in joy and watches with infinite peace, for it has nothing to fear, nothing to lose, nothing to become, for it has always been all that is. And so we end not with an ending, but with a return to that which never began. May your eyes remain turned inward, your heart lifted upward, your breath aligned with the still current of spirit. May the false dissolve gently. May the real emerge clearly. And may your every step from this moment forward be a step not into the world, but through it, as one who dreams but does not forget, as one who walks but no longer clings, as one who lives but lives anchored in the eternal. Close your eyes now. The world will wait, but the truth has waited longer. Return to the silence and listen. You are awake. You were not born to depend on chemicals for vitality. You were not fashioned from cosmic intelligence only to wither beneath prescriptions and diagnoses. You were not meant to hand over your temple to fear. You, beloved child of the infinite, were born vibrating with divine intelligence, crafted from God's own light, and pulsing with the sacred rhythm of spirit. Your body is not a machine, it is a shrine, a living altar of consciousness, and every cell within it holds the original blueprint of divine wholeness. The healing you seek has never left you. It lives within your very breath. It speaks in silence. It waits in stillness. It shines through the spine like a river of light long forgotten, but never extinguished. This modern age has taught you to fear your body, to distrust its wisdom, to silence its signals, and to hand over its care to outer authorities who treat symptoms but forget the soul. But I say unto you now, the greatest healer lives within you, and that healer is the divine vibration of spirit flowing through every atom of your being. You were not born broken, you became misaligned. You were not born ill, you became disharmonized. But harmony is not lost, it is only hidden beneath restlessness, noise, and spiritual forgetfulness. Your body is not asking for more medicine, it is asking for more remembrance. It is asking you to return to the sacred laws through which it was first created, the laws of vibration, breath, stillness, light, and divine joy. When you obey these laws, healing flows not as miracle, but as natural law fulfilled. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a song to be retuned. Pause now. Breathe deeply, not from habit, but from holiness. Inhale slowly through the nose. Feel the breath descend to the base of the spine. Exhale gently. Whisper inwardly, if God created this body, would He not also place within it the power to heal? Say it again and again, until the fear dissolves and the flame of knowing begins to flicker at the edge of your awareness. You are not weak. You are misdirected. You are not diseased. You are disconnected. And through these 7 sacred laws of vibrational health, I will lead you back to the divine order you never truly lost. True healing does not begin in the laboratory, nor does it reside in the cabinet of pills or the mechanical knowledge of the body's parts. It begins in consciousness. It begins in the vibratory law that governs all matter, all cells, all movement, and all stillness. For your body is not merely substance. It is sustained by the subtle whisper of spirit, animated by the divine thought behind the atoms, and energized by the invisible current of God's will that flows like a sacred river through the spine, through the breath, through every field of pranic life. And when that vibration falls out of harmony, when the consciousness dips into fear or doubt or restlessness or material attachment, the body, which is only an echo of the inner state, begins to falter, not because it is broken, but because it is reflecting the static that has overtaken the soul's silent frequency. I have told you before, environment is stronger than heredity. But today I go deeper and say the inner environment is the strongest of all. For even a perfect diet, a peaceful room, a medicine prescribed with wisdom, will falter in effectiveness if the mind resists harmony, if the heart denies joy, if the soul forgets its source. All sickness begins as vibration first, as anxiety, as emotional congestion, as dissonance between soul truth and daily thought, and by the time it appears in the body, it has already grown roots in the subtle layers of being. The wise healer does not chase symptoms, he listens to signals. He does not diagnose in fear, but in vibration. And the master yogi knows that to shift the inner frequency is to shift the outer form. Imagine your aura as a magnetic shield of divine memoria, field of energy that surrounds and interpenetrates your body, recording every thought, every belief, every fear, every affirmation. And just as iron shavings align to the pull of a magnet, so do your organs, your glands, your nerves, your very immune system align to the vibration of your consciousness. If that vibration is steeped in divine remembrance, in meditative stillness, in soul-anchored truth, the body responds as a flower to sunlight. But if that vibration is fractured by worry, poisoned by resentment, or dimmed by doubt, then the systems of healing close like petals in the night, waiting not for a drug, but for the light of consciousness to return. Do not misunderstand me, dear one. Medicines have their place. Just as a cane may help one who is learning to walk again, but the cane is not the healer, the pill is not the cause of vitality. It is the vibratory obedience to the laws of spirit that sustains health. And without that obedience, no remedy endures. You may numb pain, but you cannot erase misalignment unless the soul reclaims its throne. Breathe with me now, not mechanically, but with spiritual clarity. Inhale slowly through the nostrils. Let the breath expand your inner space. Hold it gently at the heart center, and then exhale through the mouth like a wave returning to the ocean. Whisper silently within, I vibrate with divine life. Again, inhale deeply, and this time, as you exhale, say, I release all fear. Once more, I vibrate with divine life. I release all fear. Say it until the body begins to listen, until the cells begin to hum, until the shadows begin to lift from the edges of your aura, and the light of your soul begins to flow once more. Now we begin the sacred descent into the 7 laws, not as intellectual ideas, but as vibrational doorways. Do not walk through them with curiosity. Enter them with reverence. For each is not a concept, but a commandment of divine order inscribed into the very fabric of your being. The first law is the oldest law, the primal law, the law that preceded the heartbeat, the law that sang before the organs formed, the law that echoes before any physician's voice or diagnosis, the law of stillness. For before healing can enter the body, stillness must enter the mind. And before light can rise through the spine, noise must fall away from the consciousness. And before spirit can flood the temple of flesh with restoring harmony, the soul must first choose to be still and know not just the absence of motion, but the sacred presence that emerges only in silence, only in inward pause, only in the quietude that is not empty, but brimming with God. You see, most people wait for stillness to happen. They believe it must arrive like a mood or descend like weather. But stillness is not circumstantial, it is intentional. It is an altar you choose to build within, each morning and each night, each moment when the breath slows and the eyes close and the attention withdraws from the sensory world like a priest stepping into the inner sanctum. It is in this sacred withdrawal that the nervous system resets, that the cells receive their first signal of safety, that the divine blueprint locked within every tissue begins to glow again, not because of anything added to the body, but because something has been subtracted: noise, haste, opinion, comparison, panic, self-talk, the endless mental spinning that exhausts the vital energy long before any illness sets in. You may think healing begins with rest, but rest without stillness is merely inactivity. True restoration flows from deep internal receptivity, and stillness is the posture of the soul that trusts God more than effort, that trusts presence more than prescription, that says, I do not need to fix myself in this moment, I need only return. And when you return, you remember, the body is not broken, it is burdened. The mind is not diseased, it is disturbed. The soul is not sick, it is silenced, and stillness is the lifting of that burden, the calming of that disturbance, the unsilencing of that inner voice. I tell you now, as one who has entered the cave of inner silence and felt the divine current sweep through the body like a cleansing fire, if you would practice only one thing in your path to vibrational healing, let it be morning stillness. Let it be that sacred moment when you sit before the world begins, when the sunlight has not yet entered your room, when the birds are still rehearsing their song, and you alone with the breath of God sit upright, spine straight, attention anchored at the point between the eyebrows, and you breathe not to oxygenate, but to remember, not to relax, but to return. Begin tomorrow with just 3 minutes. Sit in silence. Do not seek visions. Do not demand results. Simply withdraw. Close the eyes. Inhale slowly through the nose, counting 6. Hold for 6. Exhale for 6. Pause for 6. Repeat. Repeat. Let the body descend. Let the mind fall quiet. Let the soul begin to rise. And in that silence, speak only this inside. In stillness, I return to wholeness. Again, in stillness, I return to wholeness. Do not say it to believe it. Say it because it is already true, and your body has been waiting for you to remember. When stillness becomes your first act of the day, healing begins before breakfast. Illness begins to unwind its grip. The immune system, that loyal servant of harmony, begins to rise. Inflammation softens, the heart steadies, the breath deepens, the mind clears. Not because of a miracle, but because of a law, the law of stillness honored at last. The breath is not merely a physiological function. It is the first language of God moving within you, the silent syllable of the infinite echoing through your nostrils, entering the temple of your lungs, caressing the altar of your spine, and flowing like a golden river between the shores of body and soul. And when the breath is shallow, scattered, restless, or unconscious, your life becomes shallow, scattered, restless, and unconscious. For as the breath is, so the mind becomes, and as the mind is, so the body obeys. And thus I tell you, if you would remember how to heal, you must first remember how to breathe, not as the body breathes in fear or habit, but as the yogi breathes in reverence and rhythm, matching the pulse of spirit itself. You see, long before disease ever visits the organs, it visits the breath. It disrupts its rhythm, it shortens its path, it speeds its tempo, and in doing so, it agitates the heart, excites the nervous system, robs the cells of their pranic nourishment, and shatters the invisible equilibrium upon which true health depends. And yet the world continues to speak of medicine and surgery and diet, without once asking, how do you breathe when no one is watching? What is the vibration behind the breath you carry into your sleep, your stress, your silence? The saints of India taught that the breath is the horse, and the soul is the rider. And unless the rider learns to rein in the horse, to direct it, to still it, the chariot of life will be pulled in 1,000 directions, all of them away from the center. The yogi, on the other hand, rides the breath inwards, slows it, disciplines it, spiritualizes it until the breath itself becomes a prayer, until the very act of inhaling becomes an offering, and the act of exhaling becomes a release, a surrender, a returning to source. Now let me teach you not as a technique, but as a remembering the rhythm of divine breath. Sit quietly now. Close the eyes. Straighten the spine. Place the tongue gently to the roof of the mouth. Breathe in through the nose for 6 slow counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold that breath not with strain but with reverent stillness. 6 counts. Now exhale softly through the nose. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, empty, for 6 more counts, and begin again. This is not just a rhythm, it is a return. This is not breath control, it is soul communion. This is the rhythm of healing. As you breathe this way, visualize the breath not as air, but as light, a golden stream rising from the base of the spine up through each chakra, purifying, awakening, harmonizing the astral centers, bringing order where there was disorder, bringing coherence where there was confusion, bringing divine memory where there was fear. Let that light spiral upward as you inhale. Let it rest at the Christ center as you hold. Let it descend in radiant silence as you exhale, and let it settle in still joy as you pause. And within each cycle of this breath, repeat inwardly this affirmation. With every breath, I remember. Again, with every breath, I remember. Not as poetry, but as physics. Not as hope, but as law. You were not born to breathe unconsciously. You were born to use the breath as a bridge between form and formlessness, between matter and spirit, between the seen and the unseen. And when the breath flows in divine rhythm, the entire body orchestra begins to retune itself. The immune system begins to sing in harmony. The organs begin to move with serenity. And the soul begins to whisper again its forgotten song of joy. This is the second law. And like all divine laws, it is not a restriction, it is a rhythm. Align with it. And you do not heal, you remember that you were never separate from healing to begin with. There is a deeper truth, long forgotten in the rush of modern appetite, and it is this: that food is not merely substance, but condensed sunlight. It is not mere matter to be weighed in calories or charted by proteins and fats, but is vibrational light, captured by plants, transmuted by soil, filtered through air, and offered as an act of cosmic generosity to your temple body. Not to indulge emotion, not to feed compulsion, not to anesthetize the pain of disconnection, but to serve as radiant fuel for your soul's earthly instrument, to keep the light glowing in the chamber of flesh, so that you, divine traveler, may walk this human journey with grace, vitality, and remembrance. And yet, how unconsciously we eat, how blindly we consume, rushing through meals with eyes on screens, chewing while angry, swallowing while anxious, never once pausing to realize that every bite carries not only nutrients but vibration of the one who harvested it, of the earth where it grew, of the thought in your mind as you receive it, and that when you eat without reverence, you do not simply feed the body, you cloud the aura, you dim the fire, you draw shadows into the light. I have watched as men poison themselves with righteous diets but bitter thoughts, as women grew ill not from what they ate but from how they consumed, hurried, distracted, ungrateful, and spiritually dislocated. Do not make the mistake of believing food is neutral. Every fruit, every grain, every drop of water holds a subtle memory of sun, of soil, of prayer, or of pain. And your task is not to obsess over labels but to bless what you receive, to lift it from matter into spirit through the power of consciousness, to see your plate not as utility but as offering, to approach the act of eating as a priest approaches the altar, not with indulgence, not with guilt, but with holy awareness that says, this body is the temple, this food is the light, this moment is the prayer. Yogic science tells us that live foods, those unspoiled by industrial manipulation, unburdened by chemicals, and untouched by cruelty carry higher pranic charge, and when taken into a body tuned through breath and stillness, they do not just nourish, they awaken. They do not just sustain, they purify. But it is not only what you eat, dear one, it is how you eat. I would rather you eat simple grains in peace than gourmet meals in anger. I would rather you fast in joy than feast in haste. For food cannot bless you until you learn to bless it. So let this become your new ritual. Before you eat, stop. Close your eyes. Place both hands over your heart. Inhale slowly and say inwardly, "This food is light, I receive it with love." Then gaze gently at the plate before you, not to judge, but to honor. Feel the sun that grew it. Feel the earth that held it. Feel the divine intelligence that called it from seed into fruit. And when you take your first bite, chew slowly. Be with it. Let the taste become meditation. Let digestion become prayer. Let nourishment become soul alchemy. And above all, do not eat when angry. Do not eat when rushed. Do not eat while scrolling the world's noise into your nervous system. For in such states, even the purest food becomes misaligned within you. Instead, if your energy is low and your emotions are heavy, take 3 breaths first. Return to the inner altar, and only then receive. The stomach is not just an organ, it is a sacred cauldron in which spirit and matter meet. It can digest only what the heart has welcomed, what the mind has accepted, what the soul has blessed. And when you eat in this light, you do not gain calories, you gain clarity. You do not store fat, you store radiance. You do not numb the body, you nourish the divine within it. This is the third sacred law, that nourishment is not physical, it is vibrational. And your greatest supplement is sacred awareness. The body may fall ill through accident, through imbalance, through the natural fraying of time's cloth, but more often and more deeply, the body falls ill through emotion, through the weight of what has been carried too long in silence, through the heat of anger unspoken, through the cold of grief unwept, through the tension of old fear buried deep in the tissues where the conscious mind no longer looks. But the subconscious continues to echo, whispering through the nervous system, clouding the blood, tightening the breath, clogging the lymph, and darkening the radiant glow that was once the natural state of your living template. So I tell you now, as clearly and as lovingly as I can, to be whole, you must be clean not merely of toxins, but of suppressed sorrow, of resentment disguised as strength, of guilt worn as identity, of disappointment stored in the muscles like winter trapped inside the bones. You see, disease is often crystallized emotion, hardened over time by repeated thinking, by spiritual neglect, by the absence of release and forgiveness. The body is not separate from the heart. The liver does not forget what the mind denies. The stomach digests not only food, but feelings. The skin carries memory, the throat carries silence. And the heart, it carries the weight of all that has not been forgiven. This is why emotional purification is not a luxury, not a side practice, not an optional self-care suggestion. It is a sacred law, a necessary commandment for those who wish not only to live, but to live vibrantly, truthfully, freely, in alignment with their highest nature. Scripture tells us, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And I add to you now, "As a man weepeth not, so does he sicken." For it is not weakness to feel. It is spiritual negligence to suppress. God gave you the ability to feel, not to torment you, but to guide you, to move you, to cleanse you. Emotion is energy in motion. And when it is allowed to move with reverence, with breath, with witness, it purifies the inner sky and opens the body to higher currents of healing. But when it is trapped to be shame, by pride, by fear of vulnerability, it stagnates, it condenses, and eventually it manifests not as tears, but as tension, not as insight, but as inflammation, not as healing, but as chronic condition. Let me give you a practice, simple, sacred, and profoundly cleansing. Each evening before sleep, sit in silence. Bring to mind the face of anyone who has disturbed your peace today or long ago. Place your right hand on your heart. Breathe in slowly, and as you exhale, whisper within, "I bless and release." Again, "I bless and release." Not because they were right, not because you condone harm, but because you choose to be free, free of the burden, free of the memory, free of the vibrational toll. You are not forgiving for their sake. You are forgiving for the health of your soul, for the clarity of your aura, for the vitality of your cells. And if grief arises, sweep, do not fear the tears. Each tear is a baptism. Each sob is a letting go. Each moment of trembling is the body's way of reorganizing its energy, rebalancing its field, repairing the unseen. And if anger arises, do not shout, do not wound, but breathe it into awareness. Let it rise like fire. Let it burn the illusion. Let it purify you. For beneath every wound is light, waiting to be reclaimed. Understand this, dear one. Joy cannot sit where bitterness lives. Peace cannot dwell in a heart full of battle. Healing cannot enter a house crowded with ghosts. You must clear the space. You must exhale the past. You must let the heart unclench, the jaw soften, the chest open again like a sun-drenched sky after the rain. This is the fourth law. Emotional purity is vibrational health. Your body listens to everything you have not said. Let it hear only the truth. Let it hear only the forgiveness. Let it hear only the rhythm of release. The spine, O divine traveler, is not merely a column of bones nor a biological scaffold that keeps your body upright. It is the sacred highway of the infinite, the throne of consciousness, the altar upon which spirit lights the lamps of vitality, wisdom, willpower, joy, and intuitive knowing. It is the path through which God ascends within you, the invisible ladder that Jacob saw in vision, where angels ascend and descend between earth and heaven. For your spine is not anatomy alone, it is the living temple of light through which all healing flows. And if you neglect this temple, if you bow your back in despair, if you collapse the chest and compress the lungs, and slump your attention downward into the sensory world, then the current that heals, the current that harmonizes, the current that awakens becomes blocked, tangled, reversed, and the light that should rise remains trapped at the base of your being, heavy with inertia, dulled by habit, unable to remember its divine direction. I have told my disciples again and again, and now I tell you with loving urgency, the spine is the altar of healing. When you sit with a straight spine, you are not merely practicing posture, you are proclaiming a truth to your cells, to your chakras, to your soul itself. You are saying, I am ready to receive. You are saying, let the current flow. You are saying, let spirit rise through me. And when the breath moves upward, and the gaze steadies at the Christ center between the brows, and the heart rests in stillness, while the spine becomes like a golden pillar of divine electricity, then and only then does the healing light circulate freely, clearing blockages, nourishing tissues, recalibrating organs, and most importantly, awakening your memory of who and what you truly are. You may ask, what must I do? Begin each morning not with rush, not with phone, not with food, but with reverence. Sit in silence. Let your spine rise as if God Himself were drawing you upward with golden thread. Let your shoulders relax, let your jaw soften, let your breath find its sacred rhythm. And then visualize a golden light at the base of the spine, warm, coiled, luminous. With each inhale, see that light begin to rise up through the sacral center, through the fire of the navel, through the stillness of the heart, through the resonance of the throat, through the intuition of the spiritual eye. And with each exhale, see that light gently anchor in your entire being, leaving a trace of harmony behind. This is not fantasy. This is not imagination. This is the ancient yogic science of healing through awareness, through intention, through divine magnetism reawakened. Say inwardly now, my spine is the ladder of healing. Again, my spine is the ladder of healing. Say it until you feel the current shift. Say it until the warmth begins to spread. Say it until the outer world vanishes and only the inner sanctuary remains. And understand this, no medicine, no herb, no external therapy can replace what the spine, when purified, awakened, and honored, will do for your health. For it is the origin of your vitality, the conductor of your consciousness, the sacred thread upon which the body, mind, and soul are strung like pearls in a necklace of light. Treat it as such. Sit straight not for appearance, but for reverence. Walk upright not for pride, but for alignment. Live from the spine, not from the surface. This is the fifth sacred law, that your spine is not simply part of the body, it is the center of your being, the altar of ascension, the golden pathway through which healing descends and remembrance rises. Every word you speak is not merely sound, it is vibration made visible, thought made flesh, soul made audible, a wave that enters not only the air around you but the cells within you, the molecules of your being, the architecture of your health. And whether you whisper a truth or mumble a complaint, whether you chant the name of God or repeat the name of your fear, the body listens, the aura listens, the universe listens, and the listening shapes the form. For sound is not just an effect, it is a cause, a root, a force of creation, echoing the same primal truth spoken in the first chapter of creation. And God said, "For in the beginning was not medicine, nor theory, nor philosophy, but word vibration, sacred, divine, powerful enough to split silence into galaxies, to call light from darkness, to summon spirit into matter. And I tell you now, that same power is within you, latent in your voice, hidden in your breath, waiting to be awakened by purity of speech, by sacred chant, by vibratory discipline that transforms not only your health, but your destiny." You see, when you complain, your words poison the temple. When you gossip, you fracture the magnetic shield of your aura. When you curse, even in jest, you direct negative force toward your own nervous system, and the cells, humble and obedient servants that they are, begin to echo that dissonance, growing confused, fatigued, inflamed not by fate, not by food, not by flaw, but by frequency. For the tongue, uncontrolled and unconscious, is one of the most dangerous instruments in the world, capable of calling forth disease or calling forth divinity, depending on the mind behind it, depending on the memory it carries, depending on the spirit from which it speaks. Now let me offer you a different path, the yogic path, the divine path of vibratory word. Each morning, before you speak to the world, speak to your soul. Place your right hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. And chant aloud or inwardly the sacred syllable, Om. Again, Om. Again, Om. Letting it rise from the heart like a golden flame, letting it resound through the inner sky of your being, letting it shake loose the shadows, clear the cobwebs of restless thought, harmonize the waters of the nervous system, and tune your body like a divine instrument to the frequency of truth. This chant is not poetic, it is cosmic science. It is the vibratory signature of the infinite, the seed sound from which all matter arises. And when you attune yourself to it, you begin to vibrate with the memory of health, with the pulse of spirit, with the divine intention that made you not to suffer, but to shine. And beyond chanting, discipline your speech throughout the day. Speak slowly, speak kindly, speak only what uplifts or instructs. And when anger tempts the tongue, breathe instead. When fear urges you to declare disease over your body, pause and declare healing instead. When pain wishes to tell the world how broken you feel, let your higher self speak of how you are returning, remembering, rising. Say not, "I am sick." Say, "I am healing." Say not, "I am tired." Say, "I am restoring." Say not, "I am weak." Say, "I am remembering strength." For what you say, you become. What you declare, you empower. What you repeat, you entrain into the body's rhythm. This is the sixth law. Your voice is not just an expression, it is a transmitter. Use it wisely. Use it reverently. Use it to chant yourself back into the frequency of wholeness. There is a force more powerful than any tonic, more radiant than any vitamin, more protective than any medicine on earth, a force invisible to the microscope, undetectable by the physician's instruments, yet known instinctively by every child, every saint, every healed soul who has ever walked this earth without fear in their heart. And that force, beloved one, is joy. Not the fleeting amusement of a joke, nor the shallow thrill of entertainment, nor the distracted pleasure of a momentary comfort, but the deep, sustained, undisturbed flame of divine joy that arises not from what happens to you, but from what flows through you, from your alignment with God, from your remembering that the soul is not here to survive, it is here to shine. Joy, true joy, is not emotional, it is vibrational. It is the frequency of divine harmony, vibrating through your cells. It is the resonance of the infinite remembered in the breath, in the posture, in the smile. And just as negativity constricts the aura, just as worry frays the magnetic field, just as sorrow suppresses immune response, so does joy expand the aura, shield the body from subtle harm, and restore the electrical wholeness of the nervous system. Joy is not an accessory to health, it is its guardian. It is the immune system of the soul. Do you not see? The saints did not heal through science alone, they healed through presence. They carried joy like a cloak of light, and wherever they walked, healing followed not because of technique, but because of frequency. They smiled from the soul, not to pretend, but to radiate truth. And when they sang, when they laughed, when they gazed at you with still eyes, they transferred joy as medicine, and the body responded not because it understood, but because it remembered. Now I tell you what I told my disciples. Smile, even when the body aches. Smile, not as denial, but as devotion. Sing, not to entertain the mind, but to cleanse it. Begin each day with a smile, not because you feel like it, but because your soul does. That smile is not cosmetic, it is magnetic. Let your lips turn upward even when the world seems heavy. Let your eyes soften even when the news is harsh. Let your chest open to laughter, to music, to divine chanting, even when life gives you no reason, because joy is not a reaction. It is a stance. It is a choice. It is a vibration you choose to carry as your sacred protection against the darkness of the age. And let it be known, laughter is medicine when it comes from the soul. Devotional singing is medicine when it rises from love. The joy that arises in meditation, in stillness, in communion with the divine, that joy not only heals the heart, it rewires the brain, rebalances the hormones, regulates the immune system, and restores the electromagnetic integrity of the body temple. So practice joy, not just when things go well, but especially when they don't. Choose joy when fear rises. Choose joy when sadness tempts. Choose joy when fatigue whispers that you are alone. For in those moments, joy is not escapist. It is your weapon. It is your shield. It is the proof that you are still anchored in God, still awake to the truth, still vibrating with the remembrance that your health is not made of matter, it is made of light. Say it with me now. My joy is my health. My joy is my prayer. My joy is my protection. Say it again and again. Let the vibrations settle into the bones. Let it echo in the blood. Let it soften the muscles and brighten the skin and steady the heart. This is the seventh and final sacred law. That joy is not only your reward, it is your defense, your medicine, your natural state when all that is false has fallen away. Now, beloved soul, having journeyed with me through these 7 sacred laws, through stillness and breath, through light and food, through forgiveness and posture, through word and vibration and joy, I ask you not to merely remember what I have said, but to become what I have spoken to. Take these teachings not as outer knowledge, but as inner commandment, not as hopeful advice, but as the very structure of your return, your reawakening, your holy reclamation of the truth that you are not a fragile creature caught in the chaos of a diseased world, but a radiant flame of God moving through form, a sacred instrument of spirit wrapped in bones and breath and blood, capable of more restoration, more regeneration, more radiance than any textbook has dared to promise and any prescription has dared to imagine. For you are not meant to depend, you are meant to remember. You were not designed for sickness, though it may visit. You were not destined for weakness, though it may arise. You were not created to decay while your soul still shines. You were made as a healing presence. Your body was not a prison, but a temple. Your breath was not a background function, but a divine messenger. Your words were not noise, but spells. Your spine was not a structure, it was a staircase for God. Your joy was not a side effect, it was the vibration of immunity. You are the healer you have sought. You are the vibration you have longed for. You are the light your own cells have been praying you would remember. Now breathe with me slowly, reverently, with spine straight, with eyes closed, with awareness held at the point between the eyebrows. Inhale for 4, for 5, for 6 counts. Hold, and let that breath rise like golden light from the base of the spine to the throne of the soul. Hold, and now exhale, not just air, but fear. Exhale limitation. Exhale doubt. Let the body become breath. Let the breath become light. Let the light become God. Again, inhale, hold, exhale, and feel it. You are not what the world has made you to believe. You are what God remembers you to be. Say it now, not with your mouth, but with your entire being. I am not this illness. I am divine vibration. I am God's healing presence on earth. Again, I am not this illness. I am divine vibration. I am God's healing presence on earth. Let these words imprint themselves, not only in your memory, but in your cells. Let them rewire your posture, your choices, your breathing, your eating, your forgiveness, your speech, your rest, your joy. Let them be the new baseline, the new covenant between you and your temple, between you and your source. Do not say them just today. Say them each dawn, each dusk, each time the old fear rises, each time the body forgets. Say them when you lie in bed at night. Say them when you rise. Say them when the doctor frowns. Say them when you feel weak. Say them until the universe has no choice but to echo back what you have spoken. Now take this moment to declare it before heaven and earth, before your angels and your ancestors, before your subconscious mind and the great spirit who fashioned your form. I now walk the 7 laws of sacred health. Write it, speak it, live it. May your body become light. May your breath become prayer. May your words become medicine. May your joy become shield. May your spine become altar. May your heart become sky. May your soul become the doctor. And may every cell in your body hear once again the original tone of Eden, the sacred Om of wholeness, the music of God rising through the temple of you. Close your eyes now, dear one. Gaze gently at the point between the eyebrows. Whisper inwardly, be still, be whole, be light. And let that be the final medicine. When you were born, beloved soul, the heavens formed a perfect pattern, and the stars arranged themselves in a sacred dance above your head, each planet aligning with a unique resonance, each house casting its light and shadow across the vast stage of your destiny. But let me tell you something with the fullness of divine remembrance. You are not your sun sign, nor your rising, nor the placement of Saturn in your chart. You are not your horoscope. You are not the labels that astrologers have given you, no matter how mystical they sound. You are the immortal soul who chose, in God's presence, to enter this life at a specific moment, under a specific sky, to fulfill a mission of divine awakening. That chart you carry is not your identity, it is your invitation. It is not your definition, it is your classroom. So many souls walk the earth with their heads bowed beneath the weight of their birth charts. They say, I am a Capricorn, so I must be distant. Or, my Venus is afflicted, so I cannot find love. Or, my 12th house is heavy, so I am doomed to loneliness and spiritual confusion. My child, such thinking is bondage disguised as wisdom. You are not here to live as a forecast. You are here to remember that you are beyond prediction. You are the living light of God, temporarily clothed in tendencies and lessons, but not bound by them. Your chart may describe the weather of your karma, but you are not the weather. You are the sky behind it. The great danger of astrology, when misused, is that it gives the ego a crown it does not deserve. It turns personality into prophecy. It replaces soul effort with star excuses. But listen to me closely now. Your soul did not come here to repeat what has been. It came to transcend. The birth chart is a wheel, but the wheel was meant to be risen above. The moment you believe the chart is who you are, you have fallen from the center into the rim. The moment you say, this is just how I am, you have stopped remembering what you are. Do not fear the chart, and do not worship it. Gaze upon it as you would a sacred map left by your own divine hand. A map of karma and curriculum, not a prison, not a verdict. You were never sent here to be defined by the stars. You were sent here to defeat them not through rebellion, but through mastery. Not by denying your tendencies, but by divinizing them. So now, let me walk with you. Let me take your hand not to explain the mechanics of astrology, but to show you the hidden flame behind the signs. Let me show you what your chart really says, not about your personality, but about your purpose, not about your traits, but about your training. For what your chart truly reveals is the soul's whispered promise. I will awaken. I will rise. I will return to the one who sent me. My beloved, let us now shine the light of divine discrimination upon the next Valone that clings tightly to the mind and whispers with great authority, you are this, you are that. This planet made you do it. That aspect is your flaw. This transit is your fate. But I ask you now to listen not with your intellect, but with your soul. For the truth I shall share is not of human theory, but of cosmic vision. The ego, ever subtle in its quest for permanence, has found in astrology a most clever disguise. It uses the language of the stars not to liberate you, but to imprison you in a golden cage of spiritual vocabulary. It takes the chart which was meant as a sacred Gideon, turns it into a mirror of its own delusion. It says, "This is who I am," and clutches tightly to its moon sign, its rising sign, its squares and trines, as if they were divine commandments, when in truth they are but the ripples of past tendencies, the residue of former choices, echoing through the present incarnation, not destiny, but data, not identity, but instruction. What is astrology truly when viewed from the soul? It is a karmic imprint, yes, a pattern, that reflects the vibrations into which the soul chose to descend. But reflection is not creation. Your chart does not create your reality, it reveals the arena in which your soul has chosen to train. It does not tell you who you are, it shows you what remains to be purified, what must be overcome, what must be offered back to the divine in order for the radiant light of spirit to shine without distortion. And yet the ego, which fears annihilation more than it fears bondage, clings even to spiritual systems in order to perpetuate its illusion of separateness. It says, I am this Mars, I am this Saturn, and in doing so, it forgets the one great truth that every planet bows to. The soul is not its tendencies, it is the chooser behind them. Do not use your chart as a shield. Do not use your aspects as a justification. Do not use your retrogrades as an apology for spiritual laziness. Astrology becomes Maya when it ceases to serve as a ladder and becomes a label. The stars were not made to bind you, they were made to serve as signs along the way, to remind you, to reflect back to you the inner choices that must be made consciously and with reverence. When you begin to use astrology to explain away your failings, to delay your devotion, to predict your peace or your suffering without looking to your own daily discipline, then you are not reading the chart with the soul's eye, you are reading it through the lens of self-deception. I once said, and I say it again, the wise man defeats his planet, who masters the self, masters the stars. What does this mean? It means that the soul, anchored in God, rises above all planetary influence. It does not deny the forces at play, but it is not defined by them. Just as a seasoned sailor learns to read the winds without surrendering the helm, so the yogi reads the chart without becoming its victim. You are not here to be subject to the dance of the heavens, you are here to join it, to learn its rhythm, to use its pull, not to drown in the tide but to surf the wave into divine realization. Look at your chart then, not as a portrait, but as a battlefield, not as a personality map, but as a karmic compass. See where the ego hides behind excuses. See where your nature has become habit. See where your energy resists refinement. And then, with breath anchored at the spiritual eye and spine straight like the inner rod of divine memory, declare silently, I am not the chart, I am the soul that chose it. Let us go deeper now. Let us look beyond the wheel entirely, beyond the planets and the signs and the rising and the moon, and behold the one who chose to be born under that particular sky, not to become it, but to transcend it. Let us walk into the soul's light now. Ah, my beloved, let us now cast aside the veil entirely and gaze not upon the stars above, nor the chart below, but into the eternal flame of the soul itself. For while the chart is a circle and the sky is a dome, and the planets are ever in motion, the soul is still, eternal, radiant with the memory of its divine origin, untouched by time, unmarked by transits, unaltered by retrograde alignments. For it was before the stars were formed, and it shall remain when the galaxies collapse back into the womb of the infinite. You are not a Leo or a Pisces or a Virgo or a child of Saturn or an aspect of Mars. You are the immortal, changeless, ever-conscious Atman, the divine spark of God, born not once but countless times, carrying from life to life the invisible ledger of karma, the hidden memory of lessons left unfinished, loves unpurified, powers misused or neglected. And it is from that karmic storehouse and not from chance or fate that your next birth is chosen, your hour selected, your place on the wheel set with mathematical precision, not by a mechanical universe, but by a loving intelligence that knows what you need to grow, to evolve, to remember. Your soul did not fall helplessly into a random chart. It selected it, with the full knowledge of its past and with a deep longing to return to its source. You chose your birth moment the way a traveler chooses the best moment to set sail, not when the sea is calm and easy, but when the tide, though perhaps stormy, will carry you precisely where your soul must go. That difficult Saturn placement you dread, that afflicted moon, that challenging 12th house, these are not punishments, but sacred appointments. They are teachers your soul hired before you arrived. And the joyful alignments, the gifts, the grand trines, the sweet blessings, they too were earned, cultivated in previous incarnations, waiting now to flower as you grow more rooted in truth. Karma, not chaos, determines the chart. And yet karma is not destiny, it is the soil. And the soul, through right living, right meditation, right effort and surrender, can change the harvest of that soil. A thorn bush grows in rocky ground if left untended, but the same ground, when cleared and cultivated, may yield a garden of lilies. Your birth chart reflects the tendencies of your nature, not the verdict of your future. It is not an identity, it is an atmosphere. It is not who you are, it is where you must awaken. Imagine the soul as a divine traveler, entering a new life as one might step into a sacred play. The chart is the script, not the actor. The planets are the stage, not the light behind the eyes. You are not sent to act your chart, you were sent to rise through it. The sun in your chart is not your identity, it is the force you must spiritualize. The moon is not your soul, it is the emotion you must transcend. The rising sign is not your truth, it is the mask you must purify into transparency. The chart shows what needs to be transformed, not what must define you. And so I say to you now, from the depths of divine memory, I am not what was predicted. I am what God remembers. I am not what was assigned. I am what I choose to become. Repeat these words not as hope, but as a vow. Say them until your spine tingles with recognition. Breathe into them until your heart no longer beats with fear of fate, but with the thunder of freedom. Say them until the stars no longer sit above you, but within you, vibrating not as destiny, but as light, remembering light. You are the self. You are the soul. You are the child of the infinite, who came not to be defined by the chart, but to define what it means to be divinely human. You are the soul that descended in consciousness only to rise again in power. You are the being who chose this chart to heal what was wounded, to love what was feared, to surrender what was prideful, to transform what was hidden, and to rise again in light. Let us now walk together through the chambers of that chart, not to name you, but to free you. Let us move into the stars and turn them into steps. Let us begin to climb. Now let us take the first step onto the sacred spiral of your chart, not as an astrologer seeking to define traits, but as a soul whisperer seeking to awaken remembrance. For the planets, dear one, are not merely distant spheres spinning in the heavens. They are living archetypes, divine intelligences, karmic reflections cast into the sky by the echo of your soul's past choices, and they circle your natal wheel not to restrict you, but to reveal the inner sanctum of your evolution. Each one a cosmic classroom, each one a fire through which the ego must be burned into gold, each one a teacher your soul hired before birth to train you in the language of light. Look to the sun not as a symbol of ego, but as the radiant flame of your soul's intention for this life, the core theme of your incarnation, not in personality but in essence, for the sun is not who you appear to be, it is what you must become more fully conscious of your divine center. Your willingness to embody spirit in action, to shine not for attention, but to remind others of their light. And when the sun is placed in challenge or in strength, it is not praising you or punishing you, it is asking, will you rise each day from within, or will you wait for others to shine upon you? And the moon, how often it is misunderstood as merely emotion or mood, but truly, it is the karmic residue of your inner landscape, the habits of feeling and reacting you carry from other lives, the echoes of subconscious impressions still vibrating in your astral body, asking not to be indulged, but to be spiritualized into divine feeling, into calm compassion, into motherly surrender to the higher will. The moon, dear one, is not a reason to justify moodiness. It is a place where you must transform memory into meditation. And what of Mars? That fierce red warrior that many fear or glorified is not aggression. It is your divine energy turned outward or upward, your spiritual courage waiting to be disciplined into willpower, into tapasya, into the sacred heat of divine striving that burns through resistance and doubt. Mars is not here to make you fight. It is here to teach you to conquer your own inertia, to pierce the veil of Maya with the sword of one-pointed devotion. And Saturn, that great karmic taskmaster, so often cursed or misunderstood, he is your most sacred teacher. He is the gatekeeper of truth. He is the Lord of discipline, of delay, of dharma, not because he wishes to withhold joy, but because he wishes to build your inner foundation strong enough to carry the weight of divine consciousness. Where Saturn sits in your chart, there lies your sacred wound, but also your most holy potential. He asks not for despair, he asks for depth. He does not say, you cannot. He says, you must endure until you can. He strips away your illusions until only God remains. Each planet is a mirror, and each mirror shows you where to bow more deeply, where to sit more still, where to love more cleanly, where to remember more faithfully. Venus teaches you that love is not indulgence, but divine magnetism. Mercury reminds you that communication must become communion with the spirit. Jupiter expands what you believe, so believe only in truth. Rahu tempts your ambition, but only so that you may realize that only God satisfies. Ketu severs what you cling to, but only so you may cling to the eternal. And so I say to you now, take a breath, not an ordinary breath, but a sacred one, a conscious one. Inhale deeply through the spine, and say within yourself, I learn from my chart. And now exhale slowly, letting go of all identity, all self-concept, all prediction, and say, I rise beyond my chart. Breathe again and again, not to survive, but to remember. Let the planets remain in motion. You are not here to chase their paths. You are here to align your inner light so perfectly that no planetary pull can sway your peace. No transit can touch your joy. No conjunction can alter your vow to God. You are not the planets. You are the one who placed them as teachers before you. Shall we continue this sacred pilgrimage? Come with me now as we enter the 12-fold wheel, not as astrologers dissecting fate, but as devotees tracing the soul's footprints through the corridors of karma and grace. For these 12 houses, so often mistaken as indicators of worldly events, are in truth 12 sanctuaries of inner training, 12 stations along the spiral path where the soul is asked to refine, to remember, to renounce, and to return, not in circles of repetition, but in upward spirals of transformation. And each house, beloved, is not merely a category of external experience, but a chamber where the divine has hidden an aspect of your own unfolding, a mirror where your deeper response to life must be brought under the command of spirit. The first house, they say, is the house of self, but the true self is not the body, nor the appearance, nor the personality. It is the spark of divine image clothed in human form. And here the soul learns how to wear the costume of incarnation without becoming lost in it. It learns to move through the world without forgetting its origin, to say, I am, not as a separate being, but as an extension of the one, I am, that I am, spirit in expression. The second house, the realm of possessions, of money, of values, not to teach you greed or fear, but to ask, what do you hold dear? What do you cling to? What do you believe gives you worth? The soul placed karma here so you would learn to find security not in what you accumulate, but in what you surrender. Not in the coin, but in the inner gold of self-reliance on God. The third house speaks of communication, of siblings, of ideas, but its true lesson is this. How do you move through your environment with awareness? How do you speak, and from where? Does your voice serve truth or serve ego? Are your thoughts chains or wings? This house asks you to awaken divine discrimination in the details of daily life. In the fourth house, you meet the roots, your home, your ancestry, your private self, and here the soul often hides its oldest fears, its unmet needs, its longing for safety that no earthly home can give. It is here you must dig into the soil of your own heart and plant the stillness of God, making the inner temple your true dwelling, your one refuge. The fifth house, often celebrated for its creativity and romance, is where the soul learns sacred expression, not indulgence, but divine joy. The joy of creating not from need, but from overflow, not from self-seeking, but from soul radiance. It is here you must learn to love as God loves, without grasping, without demand, without forgetting the beloved behind the beloved. The sixth house is service, health, discipline, but deeper still. It is humility, the bowing of the ego to the daily path of purification, the willingness to heal not for pleasure but for alignment, to serve not for approval but for surrender. It is where the soul scrubs the floor of the temple each morning with breath and prayer. And the seventh, the house of partnerships, it is the sacred mirror, where the soul must learn that no one can complete you, but everyone can reveal you. Your spouse, your enemy, your companion, your critical are instruments the soul has summoned to show what remains unhealed, unloved, unseen. You must not worship love, you must become it. In the eighth house, the soul enters the cave of transformation. Here lies the death of illusion, the trials of letting go, the purification of power and sexuality, the surrender of control. It is not a house of fear, it is the sacred passage where you dissolve to rise, where the caterpillar becomes ash before the phoenix can soar. The ninth house, the house of philosophy and higher learning, is where the soul expands beyond dogma into direct experience, where belief must bow to realization. It is where you begin to ask not, "What do I know?" but, "What am I becoming?" Here you step out of religion and into God. The 10th house, the house of career, is not your job, it is your dharma, your outer expression of inner truth, your willingness to shine light into the world's structures. Here the soul must resist false ambition and remember, true success is devotion in action, divine purpose carried into every task. And the 11th community, dreams, networks, here you must ask, what do I seek from others? Where is my loyalty placed? This is the house of spiritual aspiration as well, where the soul dares to dream God-sized dreams, but must also learn to release the outcome. Finally, the 12th house, misunderstood as loss, isolation, hidden enemies, but in truth, it is the threshold. It is the final veil. It is the womb of the infinite and the grave of the ego. Here the soul is stripped bare. Here meditation becomes liberation. Here the self dissolves into the self, and the circle completes, not in repetition, but in return. Now pause. Breathe. Let your breath rise from the base of the spine to the point between the eyebrows, and as you inhale, say within, in every house, I carry the soul. And as you exhale, say, in every house, I remember God. Again and again, not to repeat but to reawaken. You are not your chart. You are not your placements. You are the divine being walking through 12 gates, gathering fragments of light, returning them to the center until the whole sky shines through you. And now, dear soul, let us turn our gaze to the outermost edges of the wheel, not to lose ourselves in new layers of complexity, but to see how even the boundaries of the chart point toward liberation. How the rising sign and the lunar nodes, though often taken as symbols of fate or personality, are in truth markings left by your own hand, as reminders of the path you must walk and the illusions you must shed. For the rising sign is not your true face, but the mask your soul chose to wear for this incarnation, not as deception, but as training, not as limitation, but as the first layer to be refined, polished, and ultimately made transparent, so that the light of the inner self may shine through unobstructed. The ascendant, they say, is how the world sees you, but let me tell you something deeper. It is how your soul agreed to be tested, how your spirit chose to engage with the outer world as a means of inner refinement. If it is fiery, you are to temper passion into purpose. If it is watery, you are to deepen emotion into intuition. If it is airy, you are to move from thought to wisdom. If it is earthy, you are to transform form into service. Whatever it is not a definition, it is a door. It is the entrance to the temple of this life, and you must pass through it, not cling to it. The world may see your rising sign, but God sees your rising soul. And then we arrive at the sacred polarities of the chart, the north and south nodes of the moon, those mystical points where karma crystallizes and destiny unfolds, not as prophecy, but as invitation, not as fixed pathways, but as soul choices made before incarnation, where the south node holds what you have already mastered or misused, and the north node holds what you came to embody anew. The south node is memory, it is familiarity, it is comfort, but it is also inertia. It is the past calling you back into patterns long rehearsed. The north node, by contrast, is discomfort, effort, divine tensionate, is the future self pulling you forward into virtues not yet fully owned. So many seek their soul's mission in the glamour of the north node. And yet I tell you, your mission is not in the goal alone, it is in the movement, in the crossing from south to north, in the daily decisions to leave behind the known identity and walk into the unknown holiness. You are not here to fulfill the north node, you are here to become the type of soul who could live there with humility, with love, with God. It is not about arrival, it is about direction. Understand this, my beloved. The rising sign tells you how to begin. The south node shows you what to let go of. The north node beckons you toward the horizon of divine becoming. But none of these are fixed in stone, they are etched in the sand of spiritual willingness, and the breath of devotion can shift them, realign them, transcend them. The chart may incline, but your soul, rooted in God, anchored in truth, guided by meditation and uplifted by grace, has the power to realign the stars from within. Now close your eyes not in sleep, but in sacred inner turning, and feel your breath not as air but as intention. Inhale through the spine as if you are walking forward on the bridge, from south to north, from past to purpose, from personality to presence. Exhale gently, releasing the old roles, the masks, the identities you have worn in 1,000 lives, whispering inwardly, I walk toward my soul's promise. Inhale again, this time stronger, steadier, rising toward the point between the eyebrows. Exhale slowly and whisper, I leave behind what no longer serves. Again and again. This is your real movement, not across houses, not across signs, but across dimensions of consciousness. The chart does not move you. The soul moves through the chart. And now that we have walked the circle with divine eyes, we must rise from the wheel and return to center. For the soul is not the chart, it is the one who placed it in the sky like a constellation of reminders, not to define your nature, but to awaken your vow. Shall we rise further? Now we come to the threshold of remembrance, the still point at the center of the spinning wheel, the blazing truth that has waited in silence beneath all patterns, all placements, all planetary influences, the truth that you, beloved child of light, are not your astrological chart, not your planetary alignments, not your nodes, signs, or transits, not even your so-called soul mission, as described by the stars. For the soul has no mission but to remember its oneness with the infinite, no task but to burn in divine love until only God remains, no journey but to return from the illusion of separation to the reality of eternal union. And when you finally cease to chase understanding through labels, when you release the grip of the self that clings to systems, identities, and inherited maps, then you will fall inward into the flame that has no origin, the light that has no limit, and you will know beyond belief, beyond intellect, beyond astrological insight, that your soul is older than the constellations, brighter than the sun, freer than the outer sky, and that it is not made of influences, but of essence. I say to you now with the full force of divine truth, let the chart fall from your hands, not in rejection but in surrender. For it has served you well, it has shown you where your tendencies lie, where your attachments have bloomed, where your karma curls like smoke in hidden corners, but now it is time to step beyond the map and become the traveler, to rise from student of stars to child of spirit, to move from being influenced to being anchored, to let the signs become silence, the houses become stillness, the planets become inner prayer. You were not made to orbit, you were made to return. You were not born under a sky to serve the sky, you were born into this life to remember the sky within you, to uncover the inner firmament where God writes, not with planets but with love, not with signs but with vibration, not with predictions but with presence. Say with me now, not as words, but as soul utterance. I am not the stars, I am the light behind them. I am not the chart. I am the choice to rise. Say it again, until it becomes breath, until it becomes pulse, until it becomes knowing. You were not born to be interpreted. You were born to be realized. The moment of your birth was not a coincidence, it was a cry of the soul. Let me return, let me awaken, let me walk again the road back to God. When you look up at the night sky, do not see destiny, see reflection. Do not see power, see metaphor. The stars are beautiful because they remind you of something ancient in yourself, something radiant, something still, something surrendered. But you are not a reflection, you are the source. You are not the moon moved by tides, you are the sun of spirit, capable of igniting the heavens with remembrance. The apostle once said, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." I say, be ye transformed by the stillness of the soul, by the breath that does not seek meaning in constellations, but meaning in communion, in union, in divine silence. Astrology, when read from the ego, is bondage. Astrology, when read from the soul, is scripture. But your soul needs no scripture, no system, no sky. It needs only surrender. Now take a deep breath, not as a body filling lungs, but as a soul inhaling the memory of its own divinity. Inhale through the base of the spine. Rise through each chakra like light ascending a golden ladder. Reach the brow, hold. Exhale into the infinite. Say with me again, I was not born to live as a chart. I was born to live as a child of God. You are free. You are radiant. You are not the sky. You are the witness. You are not the chart. You are the flame. You are not the story. You are the stillness from which it arises and into which it dissolves. Shall we go onward into application? Now that you have seen with clear eyes and breathed with awakened lungs and remembered with the fire of your own inner temple that you are not the chart but the soul that walks through it, let us turn now not to discard the chart, but to use it rightly, not as a definition, but as a devotional tool, not as a personality guide, but as a mirror held up to the spirit for the sake of refinement and reverent self-study. For just as a yogi does not worship the spine but polishes it daily through Kriya, so too must the seeker not revere the chart as an idol, but approach it as a daily scripture, not for prediction but for purification, not for identity but for instruction in how to serve God more deeply through the field of karma they have entered. When you wake in the morning, before you reach for coffee, before you check the world's noise, before you re-enter the dream of separateness in stillness, close your eyes and bring to your inner gaze not the complexity of your placements, but the sincerity of your vow, and say to the infinite, show me how to use this life, this body, this breath, this karma, this chart, not for self-glory, not for excuse, but for thee alone. And then breathe not automatically, but prayerfully, inhaling up through the base of the spine, offering your awareness to each center of light, not to activate them, but to listen to them, to let the breath polish the soul's memory like a lamp in a forgotten room, and then hold the gaze at the spiritual eye, for it is only from this seat of soul consciousness that the chart can be read rightly. Take your chart into your hands, not as a curious seeker, but as a disciple ready to serve. Do not ask, what does this mean about me? Ask instead, what does this ask of me? Do not ask, what do the planets say will happen? Ask, how can I use this alignment to deepen my surrender, sharpen my discernment, soften my heart, and expand my devotion? Each morning, choose one placement tone planet, one house, one node, and do not analyze it, but contemplate it. Ask, if this were a sacred lesson and not a label, what would it require of me today? And then write, not as journaling, but as inner dialogue with the divine, writing not to interpret your soul, but to speak to it. Begin your entry with the question, how can I use this karmic energy to love more purely today? Let that become your new astrology, not the movement of Mars, but the movement of mercy, not the trine of Jupiter, but the triangle of body, mind, and spirit aligned in surrender. Approach the birth chart as you would a mandala, something to meditate upon, not to define yourself by, but to dissolve the self into. Gaze at it not with the mind, but with the heart, and then close your eyes and see not the planets, but the breath of God moving through the spine, turning tendencies into tools, karma into prayer, past into power, astrology into adoration. Each breath is a transit more sacred than any alignment. Each act of stillness is a reset more powerful than any planetary retrograde. Let the rising sign remind you how you begin the day, but choose to begin from the soul. Let the moon remind you of what you carry but choose to release it into divine neutrality. Let the sun remind you of your task but choose to perform it not for self, but as a flame of God. Let your daily practice not be to read more charts, but to read your own reactions as sacred scripture. That is astrology for the Yogino forecast. But freedom. Say now with full awareness, let me not seek identity, but instruction. Inhale, slowly. Feel the spine like a river of light. Exhale deeply. Feel all concepts dissolve into devotion. Again. Let me not seek identity, but instruction. Say it until the chart grows transparent and only the soul remains. Now let us speak of transits, the ever-moving hands of cosmic time, the shifting tides of planetary vibration that sweep through your natal chart like winds across the sea, stirring the waters of experience, agitating the karma of past intentions, and inviting you not to react, but to remember. For the soul that is anchored in God is not thrown by the gusts of Saturn or the tempests of Mars or the eclipses of Rahu, but rides through them like the eternal sailor who trusts the compass of stillness more than the storm of events, who listens more to the calm voice of the spirit within than the urgent chatter of astrological forecasts without, and who knows that no planet can rule the one who has placed his will in the hands of the infinite. Too many seekers, though sincere, fall into the spell of fear when they hear of Saturn returns or Mercury retrogrades or eclipses in their 12th houses, if the planets were enemies, as if the stars were plotting trials, instead of offering invitations into deeper discipline, more precise surrender, more luminous detachment from the fleeting stage of my end. In this confusion they begin to drift, not because the planets have grown stronger, but because their inner anchor has loosened, because their breath has grown shallow, because they have forgotten that it is not the alignment that binds, but the soul's forgetfulness of its own light. Beloved one, listen carefully. A transit cannot touch the one who is anchored in daily meditation, in devotional practice, in surrender to the divine. It may swirl around you, it may rattle the outer branches of your life, but it cannot uproot the one whose spine is firm, whose breath is long, whose gaze is steady at the point between the eyebrows. A retrograde cannot disturb the one who lives from the eternal now. A malefic conjunction cannot destabilize the one whose heart beats with the memory of God. A difficult eclipse cannot eclipse the sun of the soul. When you are rooted in the divine, transits become teachers, not tyrants. They show you where the ego still hides. They reveal what still resists purification. They are not curses, they are catalysts for the next ascent. So I ask you now, do not check your transits before you check your breath. Do not consult the stars before you consult your stillness. Do not ask, what will happen to me? Before asking, what would the soul do now? If you must observe transits, do so from your seat of inner power. Look not for omens, but for opportunities. And most of all, remember this truth I give to you not as theory, but as realization. You are not here to survive the stars, you are here to shine through them. Say with me now, slowly, reverently, the stars incline, but do not bind. Inhale that truth. Let it settle in your spine. With God, I rise through every alignment. Again. With God, I rise through every alignment. Let this become your mantra. Let this become your shield. Let this become your vow. No transit can defeat a soul who remembers why they were born. And you were not born to react to planets. You were born to radiate the infinite. And now, beloved, as we near the end of this sacred journey, not an ending of knowledge, but a re-entry into the timeless beginning where all truth lives, I say to you, not with persuasion, but with inner authority, not as a teacher, but as a soul who has walked this spiral of lifetimes and returned to speak only this. Your birth chart does not define you. Your karma does not imprison you. Your tendencies do not claim your throne. Your transits do not dictate your peace. And your mission is not hidden in the stars, but written in the breath, written in the spine, written in the sacred contract you made with the infinite when you left the shores of divine memory and entered the shadowed corridors of time to remember, to return, to risen not through prediction or label or celestial machinery, but through the luminous act of divine remembrance, through the still and thunderous choice to know yourself as spirit once more. For what is your soul's mission truly? It is not career. It is not fame. It is not to use your gifts in the language of the world. It is not to perfect a personality or balance elements or master houses. It is not even to heal all karma before you die. Your soul's mission is to remember God in all things, in all people, in all conditions. Your mission is to strip away all that is false, to walk through fire until only gold remains, to gaze into the mirror of the stars and no longer see identity, but reflection, no longer see destiny, but devotion, no longer ask, what is written in my chart, but rather, what is written in my soul? And so I say to you now, with the fullness of love and spiritual fire, do not consult your chart to find yourself. Consult your soul to lose what is not true. Let your chart become a sacred text not of personality, but of purification. Let every aspect point you to surrender. Let every house become a temple. Let every planet become a prayer. Let every question be burned in the furnace of stillness, until only the answer that was always within you remains, I am not my chart, I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Say it with me, now, not from the lips but from the marrow of your being, from the point between the eyebrows, from the thousand-petaled lotus that opens only in surrender. I am not my chart, I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Again, slowly, deeper. I am not my chart, I am the soul that chose this birth to awaken God. Again, until time dissolves and your gaze becomes the sky. Now sit, spine straight, breath soft and holy. Inhale upward from the base of the spine to the Christ center between the eyebrows, the seat of divine command, the throne of the soul. Hold that breath, not tightly, but as you would hold the hand of the beloved gently, reverently, with sacred longing. And now exhale, not to empty, but to return, to release all illusion, to let go of everything you thought you were. Inhale again, and whisper inwardly, I remember. Exhale, and say, I return. Inhale, I remember. Exhale, I return. Let this be your eternal loop not of karma, but of communion. Let it become your temple. And as you rise now from this sacred sitting, do not rise as someone seeking clarity. Do not rise as someone trying to fulfill a chart. Do not rise as someone defined by signs. Rise as the soul. Rise as the light. Rise as the silence that walked into form and now prepares to walk back into flame. Above you, the stars will still shine. Around you, the planets will still move. But within you, something will have stilled, something will have ignited, something will have bowed, and in that bowing, you will rise. Go now, child of spirit, walk your chart, but do not walk as the chart, walk as the soul that placed it there.